Molentiya, since it's gonna be 10 minutes too, and some persons are waiting, so I'm just gonna start letting them in periodically, okay?
Hey, sure. You want me to keep my camera on or knock it off?
It doesn't matter. You can turn it on or turn it on. It's up to you. Because we won't officially start until 6 o'clock. I'll just let them in and just let them know that we'll start on time at 6.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the UE IAD Alumni Relations Soft and Life Skills series. This week, we're doing Betting on Yourselves with Molentiya Samuel, our very own Pelican from the campuses of St. Augustine and the UE Global Campus. Now, we are at 7 o'clock p.m. or start time or 8 o'clock in the Eastern Caribbean. We have 31 participants thus far, so I'm going to give 2 more minutes for some persons to join and then we can jump right in, okay? But in the meantime, you can just let you're joining from the chat, or just introduce yourself in the chat, say why you're here, what you're looking forward to getting from this webinar. All right, so I'll be back with you guys in 2 minutes while we allow some additional persons to join the webinar. Thank you. All right, everyone, all our participants, welcome again to the staging of this UE Alumni Relations Soft and Life Skills Series webinar. This evening, we are betting on ourselves. Finally and forever, we're betting on ourselves. I am Karina Dice, and I'll be your host for this evening. I work closely with the IAD and Celia, putting on these Soft and Life Skills Series webinars, and we're happy to have you all. Before we jump in with our special presenter, I just want to go over some housekeeping rules, just letting you know that this is a recorded session. As such, your voice and video will be included in the recording that we archive on our YouTube channel. All right. And what you can do is to type in the chat where you're from, why you're here, and if you have any questions. What we'll do is have our presenter go through her presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A session closer to the end. At that point, you can unmute your mics, open your cameras if you choose to do so, or type your questions in the chat and we'll get to each and every person. All right. But if you have any concerns right now, if you're hearing me, let me get a thumbs up in the chat so that we know that you're hearing and you're seeing everything so we can get going. All right. Let me know if you're hearing me, guys. Perfect. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenter for this evening, Molentiya Samuel. Well, just like how she looks on the camera there, she is a vibrant and driven individual whose name means the morning sun shining. Now, that is powerful. It symbolizes her passion and her boldness. She is a two-time Pelican. She holds a bachelor's in leadership and management from the UWI St. Augustine campus and a master's in management studies with a specialization in marketing from the University of the West Indies Global Campus, formerly the UWI Open Campus. She's an island girl at heart. She hails from Anguilla, a 35 square mile gem in the Caribbean, renowned for its friendly people, wide sandy beaches, and turquoise blue waters. Well, that sounds good for a vacation. Anguilla, known as the culinary capital of the Caribbean, serves as a reflection of Molentia's love for culture and heritage. Her roots, however, extend beyond Anguilla, with strong familial ties to St. Kitts and Dominica. Do we have any St. Kitts people here? Any Dominican people here? Might be related to Molentia. Who knows? So her paternal grandfather hails from St. Kitts and her maternal grandfather is from Dominica. So this deep connection to multiple islands has shaped her appreciation for the region's rich cultural diversity and traditions. Now, in March 2024, shortly after launching Walkabout TV, Molentiya covered the 34th annual Moon Splash Festival held in Anguilla. There, she had the opportunity to interview Grammy-nominated artists such as Mighty Miss, Protege, and the iconic Wailers. Through Walkabout TV, she showcased Caribbean culture and travel while inspiring, informing, and connecting with a global audience. Molentiya also aspires to host events, deliver public speaking engagements like she's doing right now, and become a sought after media personality at cultural events throughout the Caribbean region. Her academic in leadership and marketing equips her to apply strategic insights to real world challenges. And her entrepreneurial ventures demonstrate her ability to create meaningful, impactful content. Now, we are in the mood for learning how we can better ourselves, for learning how Molentiya got through it all. And so, without further ado, I'm going to turn over to Molentiya. I'm hoping this session will be great. And just remember to just type in the chat, ask your questions, use your emojis as we go along. Now, let's welcome Molentiya with a clap. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Molentiya Samuel, and I'm from Anguilla, of course. All of that was mentioned prior. I'm really excited about tonight, and I look forward to sharing with you as much as I can. Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So my academic journey would have started in 2016, where 5 days before the semester started, I got fully admitted to the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus. And with the support of my parents, I made the decision to pack up my life within 5 days and head to Trinidad and Tobago, where I pursued my undergraduate degree. Now, those 3 years were very instrumental in my life. Trinidad actually helped me to mature and grow up a little bit more. Coming from a country with 15,000 people, you tend to have like maybe sometimes like a one-way track of thinking. And of course, it's a small island. But when you migrate to countries as big as Trinidad, where you need to be a bit more savvy, it tends to help you to toughen up and, of course, helps you to better be able to navigate the challenges in life. My undergraduate degree experience, it was not without its fair share of struggle. I experienced the Hurricane Irma during my second year, and this is where my country was ravished from the effects of the hurricane. So while I was at university during that time, my house was destroyed, my country was destroyed. There was limited access to electricity, internet, and everything else. But I had a good group of friends who also faced similar challenges, and we kind of made a pact that we would keep each other accountable and help each other through by staying positive throughout the semester. Ultimately, the majority of us ended that semester on the dean's list simply because we kept each other accountable. I think being from the Caribbean, you always have this level of resilience that's ingrained within your DNA. So you kind of always find a way to overcome the different challenges in life. And throughout my university experience and my undergraduate degree, I met some persons from all across the region that I would say is still instrumental in my life today. I think sometimes we take for granted how amazing the connections we can make when we do attend the University of the West Indies. And I will always be someone who would have nothing but utmost respect for the University of the West Indies because of the experiences and the life-lasting friendships that I've made throughout that journey. So that's a little bit about my undergraduate degree. After transitioning back home from my undergraduate degree, I would have started to work just before the pandemic. So I just came off of university, just passing Hurricane Irma and then heading back home in 2019 to start life over again as an adult. And then here comes the pandemic. We're all shut down. We're all at home for the most part. But I started a career just before the pandemic in tourism, where I would have worked at the Anguilla Tourist Board for about almost 4 years in the marketing department, where I got the opportunity to market Anguilla as a destination. I got the opportunity to interact with stakeholders locally to understand the tourism product within Anguilla. And during that time, I also pursued my postgraduate degree, which is in marketing. And now, while I was doing all of that, I always knew that I wanted to do more, I wanted to explore more. And where the betting on myself really came into play, I mean, I think I would have already demonstrated that I'm willing to bet on myself by migrating within 5 days of an acceptance letter to university to a country that I've never been to before. So where betting on myself came into my life once again was after completing my master's degree. I felt like I needed to do more. I felt like I was young and I wanted to explore. And that is how the certified walkabout, the walkabout TV branding came about in my life. I'm an avid traveler. I am passionate about culture and I wanted to utilize my youth for things that really mattered to me. So discovering who I am completely and finding hobbies and things that I like to do was something that was really important for me. So I decided that I wanted to migrate. And with me deciding that I wanted to migrate, I looked keenly into migrating to Canada because Canada at the time, they were basically inviting and encouraging persons with specialized skills to come over and help to build the economy over there. So I did all my paperwork and I moved to Canada temporarily just to try it out and to see how I could find my rhythm, how I could find my tribe, how I could bet on myself and make a difference. And on moving to Canada, was I was determined to attend networking events, meet people, and to really get out there and hit the ground running. And to my surprise, I would have been there at least a week and a half. I went to a networking event where I would have met the CEO of an advertising agency and two of their top clients were the local tourism board there, in addition to a really big park. I was able to score an interview. After scoring the interview, I was able to actually be successful for the role. And I got the opportunity, coming from a 35 square mile island, to migrate to Canada less than a month. And I was able to get interviews with top companies and was able to work alongside closely with the tourism board up there. I think one of the key things that I would like to mention is the fact that I think that it's my bravery and my willingness always to try is what makes betting on myself so easy. It's a very difficult thing to do because it's a very risky thing to do. but I think that it's always important for us to bet on ourselves and to ensure that we are doing the things that make us happy. When we sit and we think about what it is we want to do in life or where we want to be, for me, it's always important that we understand that once this is something that has been weighing on my heart for some time, I have to carry it out. I have to do it. And for me, I've never wanted to look back at my 20s and see regret. I've always wanted to look back at them and say, you know what? I wanted to do this. I tried it. It worked, maybe. If it didn't work, oh well, I knew that I actually went out there and I was a doer. A lot of the time, some of us say we want to do things, but we don't necessarily go out there and go after our goals and our dreams. So that's a little bit about me. Um, I'm open to questions and going deeper into anything that anyone wants to know about my journey, whether it's postgraduate, undergraduate, or currently what I'm doing now.
All right, thank you, Molentiya, for sharing all that. What I want to know is what does betting on yourself really means? What is it really? If somebody should say, bet on yourself, what are we expected to do to bet on ourselves?
Well, for me, I feel like when you talk about the term betting on yourself, the first thing you have to understand when you bet on yourself is that betting on yourself does not mean that you will immediately see a win. You would not immediately see success. Betting on yourself is basically having the courage to not procrastinate on things that you want to do and to understand that if this is something that you really want to do, you have to go out there and do it, irrespective of if you look silly, if it doesn't work, or if it succeeds. When you bet on yourself, you cannot have the mentality that wouldn't work or it's gonna not turn out in my favor. Betting on yourself is just the willingness to try and to do things based upon what you want the outcome to be eventually, not looking for a windfall immediately.
Okay, got it. So betting on yourself basically is just, setting up yourself to succeed for what you want, not expecting that you must win or win immediately, but just that you're doing what you want to do and you're putting all that effort and bravery into it. Got it. All right. So Andrew Blake asks in the chat, where does knowing your limitations fit in with betting on yourself?
Where does
And
knowing your
you can always, sorry, Melinda, you can always unmute yourself if you want to speak instead of typing in chat. But
Okay. Well, for me, I am an overanalyzer of myself. So I've done a SWOT analysis on myself. So in terms of a SWOT analysis, I know my strengths, my weaknesses, I know the opportunities that I have for growth, and I know the internal and external threats that affect me in general. So when it comes to my limitations, I think it is important for persons to be honest with themselves to understand what they can do and what they can't do. Because sometimes what we see as a limitation may not actually be a limitation, it may be an opportunity for us to grow. So you have to be able to decipher within yourself and be honest with yourself about where you're at. Am I afraid and calling this a limitation, or is this genuinely a limitation that exists within me?
All right. All right. So let me ask you about your journey in Canada. You said that you went there, you networked, you were able to land an interview and you were successful in that interview. And so I'm assuming you're back in Angola right now.
I am.
Okay, so what in terms of do you think that your journey in Canada took you to where you wanted to be, you know, or did you think that going back home was the best option for you? Because a lot of us we, study and we migrate and we try new things and then it just feels like it's just not the same as being home and you want more. How do you navigate that, going overseas and then deciding to move back home?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, for me, I always wanted to live overseas. Like I mentioned prior, I come from a country that's 35 square miles. So that's a country where you could basically you can get from one end to the island, one end of the island to the next within a half an hour, basically. So you understand that that's not much to do when you're a small island girl. And a lot of the time in the Caribbean, we look at the Canadas, the UKs, and the USAs of the world as being arriving, you know? So when we get out there, we are faced with cultural shocks, you know? Persons claim to be diverse, but they are not as diverse as they portray themselves to be. With me, Canada was an experiment. I'm young, while I don't have the stresses of life, be it kids, marriage, or anything else, I said, this is my opportunity to go out there and see what this is about. If I like it, I will stay. If I don't like it, home is always an option. But with home, what I quickly realized while I was in Canada, and I had a good time, don't get me wrong, what I quickly realized is that there was a need for me to be back home. There was a need for me to be able to explore culturally the opportunities that we have here. The work that I could do in another man's country is work that I could actually do here in my island and helping to broaden the scope of persons knowing about my tiny dot that is known as paradise for me and some others. So I quickly came to the realization that my skill set, my happiness, and me overall, I was better suited in the islands. I'm an island girl. As you know, I am multicultural because I have heritage from different islands and I just resonate better in the islands.
Oh, I love that. I really, really love that. And I mean, this is personal for me because I made that decision as well to move from Jamaica to the US to live. And I'm not filled with regrets, but sometimes you realize that home is really where your heart is. And you
Yeah.
have to just decide to take that step and do what you need to do for your own people, your own culture, even though you want to do the best for yourself. But sometimes the best for yourself is where you really, really belong. That part of you where it doesn't die, it's embedded in you. So I get that
And
completely.
yeah, and something I'd like to add too is that sometimes as Caribbean people, we can be prideful. And I would like to encourage anybody not to allow pride to get in the way of them actually fulfilling their purpose on earth because we were all created to do something or some things. And I think sometimes the pride of us being overseas or being in a space that is not suitable for us or our talents or our skills can get in the way, cloud our judgment, and allow us to stay in situations longer than we need to. And that's another element of betting on yourself. You have to be able to understand when is the right time to pivot.
I get that. Come like you're speaking to my soul. Just reminding the participants, you can always open your mic, raise your hand to ask a question, type in the chat anything you need to know. Molentiya is here and she's open to answering your questions, all right? But I have another question. I want to know, what advice can you give to people experiencing challenges reaching their goals? Challenges that are external, challenges that are personal, and challenges from possibly the people or intimate partners or kids or parents. What advice can you really give to us to probably quiet the noise or something? I don't know.
Let's get out of this.
Hi. Okay. I guess that person they didn't have a question. That's an excellent question. When it comes to challenges, they're always present. They are always present. We will always face a challenge or hurdle in life, irrespective of where we are. And I think one of the things that I would always say when it comes to facing challenges in life is that I've learned this from a friend in UE specifically. You know, we have so many assignments and it can be a bit daunting. It can be a bit overwhelming that we have so much things to do. So something she told me when I was a bit flustered was that, you know, you have to take everything one step at a time. If you can break this up into parts, then you'd be able to take it piece by piece and eventually you will finish. So it's the same thing with any challenges that we have in life. Sometimes we have family members, friends, persons that are close to us that contribute to our challenges. They don't understand the things that we want to do. But that is where we have to, one, be able to dig deep and be firm about what it is that we want so that we are able to know within ourselves that it's only me, it's only you getting us to where we need to go. So after you come from that place of understanding, this is what I want, this is what I'm gonna do, you have to also understand we can compartmentalize the issue or the challenge. So we have to look at the challenge, our challenges internally and externally, and understand the factors that we play to creating this challenge and to also overcoming the challenge. So once you have made peace within yourself about what it is that you may be facing, you then think about the challenge as how can I break this up to better be able to deal with it? And once you're able to say, this is how I can compartmentalize this challenge, then I think the best thing to do is to take it bit by bit. And yeah, sometimes when you're doing things that are unorthodox, like I did, you know, I quit a really great job. I moved to Canada, and persons in my personal life were like, are you sure you're going to do this? You have to be able to be strong minded enough to block out the noise, but it's also important to have that friend or friends as a good anchor or sounding board. So it's very important to have a great community surrounded around you. And a community doesn't necessarily have to be 10, 20, 30 people, but you just need to have those anchors in your life that irrespective of what direction you're going in, they're always there to catch you when you fall. So I think to summarize that, it would be firstly to have the strong mind to know what you want out of life, understand the challenge for what it is, and be able to break it up into pieces to tackle it piece by piece, and definitely have a good support system around you so that irrespective of what direction it happens, you have someone or someone's to catch you if you fall.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree. And during your UA journey, because you went to two campuses, you went to St. Augustine and then you went to the open campus now called the UA Global Campus. Have you formed bonds with, different people from different places? How has that helped you to adapt and to grow into the person you are and into your self-awareness?
Well, I think for the first time in my life, if I'm being honest, in Trinidad, I would say I met real friends. I feel like when I say that, I mean friends that are all purpose. Sometimes in life we have friends and we have to put them in their respective categories so that we don't disappoint ourselves. But I met friends that could fit in every category. Friends that would pray with you, cry with you, have fun with you, study with you, celebrate you. And with the type of friends that I was able to gain throughout my university experience, there were persons in my circle that I know that I would specifically speak to when I wanted to hear the truth. I never surrounded myself with persons that were yes men or yes women, but I definitely had some friends that were more blunt than others. And when you needed that, I'm a very self-aware person. Let me just put that out there. But when you definitely needed that reality check, there were certain people within my circle that I was able to reason certain scenarios with, and they were able to either say, yes, I believe you're correct in this situation, or no, I definitely think you were wrong, you handled that incorrectly. So I honestly think all in all, it's always about having the right circle of people around you.
Mhm, got it. All right, Carl is asking, what advice would you give to anyone who is considering a change in a career?
Okay. So I spontaneously made a shift. So my advice as a responsible adult now would definitely to be weigh the pros and cons. I want Cara to sit down in a quiet space and she wants to make a shift in her career. She needs to understand the pros and cons of making the shift. I also want her to write down her transferable skills that she can use when she's shifting to this new career. I also want her to understand that when you're thinking about shifting to a new career, you need to think about things like time. You know, is this new career going to give me more time or is it going to take away more time from me? So you have to, when you put your pros and cons list together and then you think about your transferable skills, I really want her to dig deep and understand, is this shift going to be worth it? And I want her to take a calculated risk. Bet on yourself in a calculated risk. It helps to minimize the stress. I think someone has their mic unmuted.
Okay,
So I'm
hold
hearing
on.
a bit of feedback. Yeah. I was hearing a bit of a feedback. Someone had their mic unmuted. Yeah, I want us to think about it in a calculated way because we are betting on ourselves to not win immediately, but to win eventually. So to minimize stress, I think making that pros and cons list, understanding where you're at in terms of your skills and qualifications, understanding what transferable skills you have that will accommodate this new role would be very much important. And I think one of the things that I should have mentioned first was that ensure that you're in an emotionally level-headed state before making this transition. I do not encourage anybody to make career shifts when they are emotionally unstable or angry or frustrated with a job. We have to think about this logically. I
Thank you
hope
for
that, I
that.
really hope that helps.
Tara, I hope you heard every word Molentiya said. All right, so moving on, I want to know what is the foundation of your mindset? How do you become so self-aware, so grounded, and so focused on getting what you want? What is the foundation of that mindset? For some people, it is faith. For others, they have like a person that they look up to. What is it for you?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's definitely a combination of things. To keep me so self-aware, to keep me so grounded and focused, it first stems from a relationship I had with my now deceased grandmother. She always believed in me and she always wanted to see the best of me. And because I loved her so much, and she was a faith-based person, and she always encouraged me to trust in God, between God and just wanting to make my grandmother proud, even though she's deceased now. I think that is some of the driving forces that has kept me so focused.
Okay, got it. That's good. And before I move on to the next question, I just want to put a little icebreaker in there. If you could move to another Caribbean island, which one would it be right now?
Ooh, that is a tough one. Off the top of my head, I would say St. Kitts because it's my happy place. But I will also say Dominica because it has been a close second recently. Like I fell in love with Dominica, but definitely St. Kitts is my happy place, and I'm really impressed with the caliber of tourism in St. Kitts, the way they do productions, the festivals, the carnival. So I would definitely say Right now, the front runner would be St. Kitts, and it's just 30 minutes away.
Yeah, that's pretty good, right? You can walk almost. All
Almost.
right. All right, so I want to ask you, how did you really navigate the challenges you faced, ensure you achieved your goals? I mean, starting from your university journey, to working, to transitioning to a new country and then moving back home. How did you navigate all those challenges so that you could actually succeed, with the goals that you set for yourself?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Mm.
Honestly, I would just tell the truth. It really stems, it all, to me, it all comes back to one, having faith in God, being able to trust Him and understand that His word cannot fail. If you're someone who reads the Bible, something I've always said on rough days was, God, your word cannot fail. It cannot come back void. You said in your word, if you pray for it, once you believe it, you receive it. And then, of course, besides trusting and having that faith that God will deliver you from anything, is the fact that you have to have a strong circle or at least an anchor around you that will tell you things that you don't want to hear in the times when you're slipping and sliding. Because we all have those low periods in our lives. But there's also always good to have that person or persons who's able to say, you need to tighten up. You got to get back on track. This is not like you. And you go again. But I'm actually a very headstrong and self-motivated person, so that also helps.
You were always like that from you were a child.
Always
Yeah.
very, I was encouraged to be like that from my grandmother, to be very bold, to be very open and honest about how I feel. So it's been engraved in me since birth, practically.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank God you're like that. It worked for you, right?
It
All
did.
right. So, Andrew, before I get to Glenda, Andrew is asking a question. He's saying, you know, how important is self-awareness in pursuing your goals? And is there such a thing as too much self-awareness?
Yes, self-awareness is highly ranked when it comes to pursuing your goals. And being overly self-aware definitely can be a limiting factor because it can make you procrastinate and overthink, overanalyze, and delay from actually doing what you say you want to do. And I think I have suffered from overanalyzing certain scenarios in my life as well. But I think I've also came to a point where I realized that you're staying in your head a little too long about this situation and you need to either do it or forget it. And I don't like to not stand on my word. So I always somehow find a way to overcome those challenges. But I definitely have a lot of accountability partners who tell me to tighten up from time to time.
Right? You need those.
Yeah.
All right, Glenda is asking, what are your thoughts on betting on yourself if you're close to retirement? And that's very tricky, because you said it's risky. So Glenda wants to know.
Ooh. Betting on yourself when you're close to retirement. I think I am far from retirement, but if I was to give advice to someone almost close to retirement, the same advice would apply. Whatever it is that you're planning on doing, first ensure that you are in an emotionally sensible state. That for me is key. Ensuring that whatever decision you're making it on a level head, you're emotionally stable, you weigh the pros and the cons, and you're able to see basically how things may go. There's nothing certain in life, of course, but there is certain things that we can do to make our risk a little bit more calculated. Glenda, someone says something else, I think. Glenda has a friend. Let me read that. Glenda has a friend who has retired and has her trust firmly in God to know where I'm going. Okay. I don't think that was a question. That was just a reply.
Mhm.
Okay.
Definitely so. All right, thank you for that, Josiane. And Molentiya, I want to know what's next for you? What's next in the journey of betting on yourself? Because I'm sure it continues. It does start and end with a goal. It continues throughout your life, right?
Oh, yes. Betting on myself definitely continue. So I've recently returned home. Excited to be starting a new role. And I am working alongside the Moonsplash team again this year for the 35th anniversary of Moonsplash, which is next week. Actually, I am pouring into Walkabout TV more often. So you'll basically see me on Walkabout TV probably at least once a week. I've been reaching out to, when I travel now, I've been reaching out to regional tourism boards and persons within the marketing industry to broaden my network. So the future is basically right now in brand awareness, networking, and utilizing my already existing regional contacts.
That's amazing. And we wish you all the very best, on your. But before we go, we have another question from Andrew. And thank you, Cherise, for acknowledging Molentiya. We are proud of her. We are
Thank you,
very proud.
Sherry.
All right. So Andrew wants to know, how do you recognize when self-awareness or self-consciousness is going too far? What are the signs?
Well, for me, I think some of the signs is basically when you realize you are replaying a certain scenario over and over in your head and you're not coming to a conclusion. So that's one of the number one signs for me. When you are finding excuses for not doing the things that you say you're gonna do. And there's the limiting beliefs, there's the procrastination. Some of the signs are the limiting beliefs, the procrastination, and then just overall not doing what you said you were going to do.
Mhm. And Colleen is saying you're very inspiring, which I agree. How do you respond to pressure in the workplace? Do you pivot into something so you can move on from your situation in peace? I think that comes back to chewing things off a little by little and knowing how to figure it out. But over to you, Melintia.
Yeah, for sure. Workplace pressure, it's unavoidable. It is 100% unavoidable. Workplace pressure is unavoidable. I think sometimes it's important to understand where you're at. I was reading a book recently. It was about how to deal with difficult people. It was a book about the workplace and how to deal with difficult people. And you would think that when you initially start reading the book, it would be telling you everything about what the person did wrong. The book was actually telling you how you can understand the role that you are playing in the pressure, the tension, and whatever it is that may be transpiring within the organization. So it really all comes back down to navigating workplace politics by always understanding the role that you play within whatever the scenario may be. Also understanding that you have to take things step by step, bit by bit, and being able to be the bigger person and more understanding of whomever you may be dealing with. Because if you're going to be in a workplace for about 8 hours in a day, you kind of need to find a way to navigate that smoothly and not to be miserable.
Yeah, I agree. And so she said, do you pivot into something so you can move on from your situation in peace? Hmm.
I'm not sure what she means by that, but It really depends on how severe the situation is. If pivoting will give you peace and help you to be more productive, then sure. But there are certain situations that you kind of have to basically address head on so that it doesn't fester and create more conflict.
Yeah, and I think it relates back to what you were saying, don't make decisions when you're emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
Wait until it's all settled and you can think clearly before you decide to, because you might pivot and then you think it's peace and it's really not.
And I can
So,
give you advice about making decisions from an emotionally stable place because I've made decisions in my life from an emotionally unstable place
right.
in betting on myself. So I definitely I've been on different ends of the spectrum with betting on yourself.
All right. How do you recover from failure? How do you do that?
Ooh, I won't lie. I take those things personally at times, you know. So recovering from a failure in the past, it would have been extremely depressing. It would be something that I I basically overthink in my mind. But what I have started to do since moving to Canada, that is that I've started to understand that in the failure, there's a lesson there for me to help me to move forward. And because I've experienced the failure, I know how to navigate situations that may be even bigger in the future. And these bigger situations, with me failing previously, I'm better able to conquer them quicker. So I've tried not to harp on things and make myself feel like I failed. I tried, I didn't succeed, but I'm learning.
Mm.
So it's
That's it.
like
I'm so hard on yourself.
flip it, just flip it.
Show yourself some grace because we're not perfect, right? And Stephanie, how can I encourage a young family member who is struggling in making a decision on their career path to bet on themselves? Hmm.
Oh, well, so this person is they're struggling and you want them to bet on themselves. I think one of the first things we have to realize sometimes is that we have to meet people where they're at. As difficult as this is about the song, we have to really understand we have to meet people where they're at. There are some people in our lives that we can see so much potential in them, but they cannot see it within themselves. And until they are able to see it within themselves, we may not be able to we may not be able to get through to them for them to basically understand that you are so much more and you can do more. So my first bit of advice with you is to understand where he or she is. Well, yeah, it didn't say the gender. Understand where that person is at within their journey of understanding their capabilities, how they feel about themselves, and that is where trying to pour into them would come into play. So if they're struggling right now, you have to pour into them. You have to try to reason with them and help them to understand that these may be some of the skills that I see within you that you may not see within yourself, in hopes of them having that moment of realization so that they are better able to see, okay, I believe that I can do this. I believe that I'm capable of doing that. Because without you understanding exactly where they are on their journey right now, it's not gonna help them to understand that you have the confidence to bet on yourself.
Yeah, completely. Completely. And that comes back to the self-awareness. They need to understand and know who they are, what they want, and you can help them from there as well. Right. All right. I don't see any more questions in the chat. If there's Andrew has his hand raised, you can go ahead, Andrew, and you can unmute yourself. but you should be able to. All right, I'm not getting, um,
Oh, wasn't working before.
okay.
I hear her.
Yes.
So I try not to type this because I don't know exactly how to articulate it. So I might fumble over my words. But
Take it.
what I'm trying to ask is when it comes on to betting on yourself, I love the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that's important and necessary. But I guess I'm wondering, are there steps to be taken before betting on yourself? As in, I guess in my mind now, I am conceptualizing betting on yourself as an action-oriented thing, right? And so I'm wondering, are there things that you should try to start out personally? For example, gain some particular skills, build yourself so that you are more emotionally aware or socially aware or whatever. Or are those things a part of betting on yourself as well? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, I understand. Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier. One of the fundamental things to betting on yourself would be first evaluating internally where you're at. I am encouraging anybody to bet who's interested in betting on themselves to ensure that they have a mature and level mind to doing whatever it is that they want to do first and foremost. The SWOT analysis of yourself is also very important to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and of course the threats that you have to whatever it is you're doing internally or externally. Because some of the threats can be internally. For example, you may have limiting beliefs. You may have fear of doing something. So I think the first step to betting on yourself before you take any physical action is to really sit down and have that one-on-one time with self. Those would be my prerequisite steps to take prior to making any physical action or financial action.
Mhm. Answer your question, Andrew? Okay, perfect. He said, thank you. All right, we're just about getting up to time to wrap up. If there are any more questions, you can type that in the chat, raise your hand, open your mic. You have the ability to do so. Before we end this session, it has been a good session. I know you poured a lot into me. There's a lot I have to think about, and my biggest takeaway from it, because I am, horrible at this, I call myself greedy in this sense. I like to take a big chunk all at once instead of breaking it up and doing it in bits and pieces, so just bite off what I can chew at a time to get things done instead of just doing a big chunk. So that's my main takeaway from it. I don't know what everyone else's takeaway is, but that personally related, resonated with me. Um, and I see in your little synopsis of yourself, you said that you live by the mantra, find your rhythm, find your tribe. I think that is powerful, but what does that really mean for you?
Life is fluid, which means it's ever changing. And when it comes to finding your rhythm is more than it's an internal thing. So for me, it is finding what makes you you. The things that you like last year, you may not like them this year. So you'll be forever finding your rhythm. So for me, it is finding the way I like to style my hair. It is finding books that I like to read. It's finding hobbies. It's finding skills that I want to acquire. to do. That is finding your rhythm, being kinder to myself, growing my internal. I can't manage overthinking because I'm a avid overthinker. I haven't got to that part of the journey for sure. And that is a part of finding your rhythm. Finding your tribe is basically finding the people that make your soul feel good.
Yeah.
Finding the people that make your soul feel good. Finding the things that makes your heart sing. Yeah, I
Right.
can't help with the overthinking. I think the person's name is Penelope.
Penelope. I'm sorry, Penelope. She can't help you with that one.
Struggling still.
Yeah. And I'm
We'll get
also struggle with that, we just have to just, silence what is not important and just focus on the things that are. It's hard, but it's doable. Takes practice though, Penelope. Takes practice. So, yeah.
and if you find out before me, Penelope, you can just let us know.
All right. All right. So betting on yourself with Molentiya Samuel. I mean, it's been good. We're happy to hear about your journey. You've overcome so much and you're doing really good for yourself. But, self-awareness is super important. And Andrew said if there's a formula to betting on yourself, I think from this whole conversation that being self-aware, knowing what you want, how you're gonna get there, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats, knowing all that is a foundation to betting on yourself because you cannot have direction if you don't have a foundation at all. And that's your foundation. So that is it to summarize everything. I don't know if you want to add anything before we end, Molentiya.
Well, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present on this platform. I am honestly happy to be a two-time Pelican. Um, Besides education, the experiences that I've had, the people that I've met throughout my university experience and afterwards, it's invaluable, and I'll forever be grateful to the University of the West Indies. And I look forward to connecting with persons in the Alumni Association even more and being able to contribute to the UE in any way that I can. And if anyone wants to connect with me, you can always find me on Walkabout TV on Facebook, Molentiya_S on Instagram, and on TikTok.
Perfect. I will take you up on the offer to be more involved with UA Alumni Relations. All right. On that note, guys, this recording will be available on our YouTube channel in just a couple days. So if you want to share with anybody or you want to have a recap, you can go to the UA Alumni Relations YouTube channel and you can view this recording. And thank you for participating. Thank you for just sticking with us and listening to Molentiya and being a part of this conversation. And we'll see you next time. If you have any questions, you know how to reach us. And have a good evening. And thank you, Molentiya. We are proud of you. And keep going, keep pushing on. All right. And thanks for coming back to the Caribbean.
Yeah,
All right. Have a good evening.
bye
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.